The Papah Trail. Let's go. Yeah.
How much money has Donald Trump pocketed from the presidency since his second election? We did the math. This stack of bills represents $83,730. That's the median household income in the United States. Keep an eye on these green stacks. Let's start with the licensing deals. Foreign companies, often with the involvement of their governments, are paying to use the Trump name on buildings, and the timing is often suspicious. About a month after the Trumps broke ground on this project outside of Hanoi, the administration agreed to lower its threatened tariffs on Vietnam. Then there's Melania.
Here we go again.
He's plugging his wife's documentary.
The Trumps are pocketing $28 million for the documentary. Amazon paid significantly more than competing bids and far more than the company had paid for similar projects. But Jeff Bezos has many reasons to curry favor with the administration, from space and defense contracts to antitrust regulation. Then there's the lawsuits.
ABC News, Meta,
Paramount,
YouTube has agreed to pay more than $24 million.
$16 million.
$25 million.
Why is Elon paying Donald Trump $10 million?
None of these lawsuits were justified on their merits. But rather than face off with a vengeful president in court, these companies settled, and Trump made over $90 million.
The Pentagon says it has accepted that Boeing 747 jet from Qatar.
They're giving us a free jet. Thank you very much.
Trump plans to take the $400 million gift from Qatar with him after the presidency, and he seemed to acknowledge that it would change how he treated the country.
They're going to be protected by the United States of America.
But the family's biggest cash cow is crypto. People hoping to influence federal policy, including foreigners, can buy Trump's family coin and effectively transfer money to the Trumps. These deals are often secret, but few have become public. Like last year, a UAE investment firm announced a $2 billion deal with a Trump firm. 2 weeks later, the president gave the country access to advanced computer chips. The Trumps have made at least $867 million through various cryptocurrencies. Altogether, Trump has pocketed over $1.4 billion. That's 16,822 times the median U.S. household income. And here's the thing. We made this estimate using publicly available records, so this figure is a minimum, not a full accounting.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you
Poof, 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 poof.
Look, something strange just happened in this country, and most people aren't paying attention yet. Yesterday, the moment President Trump floated Kevin Warsh as the next Fed chair, gold collapsed. Silver crashed hard. And no, this isn't about metal prices. This is about what people think is coming next. Because when investors dump gold and silver like that, it usually means one thing. They believe the rules are about to change. Warsh isn't a random pick. He's known as someone who believes in tighter money, discipline, and ending the fantasy that the Federal Reserve can print forever without consequences. Now, here's the part that should make you uncomfortable. For years, Americans were told inflation was temporary. That borrowing didn't matter. That debt didn't matter. But suddenly markets are reacting as if that story might be over. Some people say this is good. They say strong money means a strong America. Maybe. But others are asking a darker question. What happens when the system finally stops protecting excess? Because if the Fed really changes course, someone pays the price. And it's rarely the people at the top. So the real question isn't whether gold fell. The question is, who's about to feel it next? And are we actually ready for that?
Poof, 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 poof.
37% in a single day. No warning, no announcement, just execution. Silver was at $121 Friday morning. By noon, it crashed to $76. $45 erased in 90 minutes. Gold dropped from $5,600 to $4,900, and nobody in the mainstream media is telling you why, but I will. One announcement, one name. Kevin Warsh, Trump's new Fed chair pick. The market expected someone who would print money and weaken the dollar. Instead, they got a hawk, someone who believes in tight money and a strong dollar. Within minutes, the dollar spiked. And silver? It collapsed. But here is what they are not telling you. The CME raised margins 4 times in 6 weeks before this crash. Same playbook as 1980, same playbook as 2011, and now 2026. 3 times in 50 years, same pattern, same weapon. You think that is coincidence? While America was panic selling, China was buying. Shanghai vaults drained 27 tons in one day. Physical silver, not paper contracts. The paper price says $76, but try buying physical silver today. The premiums are insane. The inventory is gone. 2 markets, 2 prices, 2 completely different realities. They can crash paper. They cannot crash the metal. Here's what stays with me. If silver does not matter, why do they keep doing this? Why crush it every time it runs? The intensity of the attack tells you the value of the target. This is not financial advice. I'm not telling you to buy or sell anything. Clear. With this information is up to you. If you found value in this, hit that subscribe button. This kind of analysis does not appear on CNBC. And drop a comment. Do you
Poof, 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 poof. The Papah Trail. Let's go. Yeah. poof, 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 poof. The Papah Trail. Let's go. Yeah. Poof, 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 poof.
Your perfect domain is out there. Go to Wix and make it yours.
Breaking news on Martin Lucas Investor. We are now on part 2 of the big Jeffrey Epstein files. Now we're looking at who is Satoshi Nakamoto and has the Epstein files revealed it. Plus the suppression on XRP and Ripple and how it's all linked to Gary Gensler. So let's continue from where we left off. If you haven't watched part 1, you'll find it in the playlist down below. It all links together. So this might be the most striking part of the document. So the most striking document is from October 2016 email from Epstein himself. This is Epstein's email sending to 2 others in the Middle East. And he said, well, let me go straight to the document. The 2 more radical ideas would be to form 2 new currencies. One called the Shahira, would be like a dollar, but a dollar is has printed on it "In God We Trust." The Middle East could have its own Shahira for internal use amongst Muslims. In addition, a digital currency like Bitcoin could be used to form a new Shahira compliant digital currency. Very exciting. And then this is the big words here. Let's see if we can zoom in on that. I've spoken to some of the founders of Bitcoin.
Grip, stability, precision. That's the essence of driving. Lawfin.
He's spoken to some of the founders of Bitcoin who are very excited. What the hell does that mean? Let's read that again. Epstein didn't say he'd spoken to Bitcoin developers or investors. He said founders, plural. Satoshi Nakamoto's identity is the single biggest unsolved mystery in technology. No one has ever publicly confirmed who created Bitcoin. And yet, here was Epstein. In a private email, never meant to be seen, remember, claiming he had spoken directly to the people who built it and that they were very excited about his new plans of a coin in the Middle East. Did Epstein actually know who Satoshi was? Or was he just exaggerating his connections, as powerful people often do? The files don't answer that yet. There's more to come. But combined with everything else, his 2011 outreach to Bitcoin developers, his funding of MIT's crypto infrastructure, his network of people like Ito and Hoffman who shaped the industry, the claim can't be dismissed. At minimum, Epstein believed he was in direct contact with Bitcoin's creators. At maximum, he actually was in contact with those actors. And Epstein wasn't just talking, he was putting money in. The files also contain an April 2018 email from Mads Vizar, a cryptographer and Zcash co-founder, sent directly to Epstein's inbox. Viraza forwarded Zcash company K1 tax documents, discussed roughly $200,000 in auction proceeds, noted that all of his coins were still maintained by the company, and laid out a strategy to extract them before an upcoming fork to benefit from both branches. That wasn't a casual conversation about crypto. A co-founder of a major cryptocurrency was reporting to Epstein on holdings, tax filings, and fork strategy, the kind of communication you would have with an investor. It was a very strange email when you read this as well. Zcash will have a fork in the chain. This is from Medaris Reza to Jeffrey Epstein. And this part here is very interesting.
Your perfect domain is out there. Go to Wix and make it yours. Claim.
He said, all my coins will be still maintained by the company. We want to move on getting them through. He said, Zcash will have a fork in the chain. It is expected that only one branch will be live after this. And then in brackets, he puts, it won't be controversial fork like Ethereum or versus Ethereum Classic, but we will have physical control over the keys. We can benefit from both branches in case it is controversial, while if we wait to get coins out, we're only going to get company endorsed branch. Can I call you someday? This is to Jeffrey Epstein. Very weird things going on the inside. The picture that emerges is consistent. Epstein wasn't on the sidelines of crypto. He was funding Bitcoin's infrastructure through MIT. There's going to be a link of Gary Gensler in a second, claiming direct contacts with its founders and receiving financial reports from cryptocurrency co-founders. He was an investor, a connector, and if his own words are to believe, someone who had access to the people who built the technology that started it all. Guys, this scares me. There's something about Bitcoin. I love all the arguments for Bitcoin. Decentralized, it's against the debasement of currency, your keys, your wallet, you own it, no one could take away from you, sovereignty, all the great arguments. A lot that just makes me think, is the risk reward worth it? Right now, Bitcoin, well, it went to 100,000, currently it's 75, 80,000, whatever. What's the best case scenario? Maybe it just keeps going up forever, but the gains are going to be severely diminished after it hits 1 million. So we've got a scenario where it can go from 100,000 to 1 million, or a scenario where it goes from 88,000 to 0. If no one trusts it, if everyone starts to believe, if more information comes out that Jeffrey Epstein was one of the founders, or has links to the founders, or knew who Satoshi was Satoshi, or was part of that group, there's a big risk there that that they can come out and sell it all, and that's always a risk. I mean, Satoshi owns a good part of the supply, and he can come out. And then what will Bitcoin be worth? I know Bitcoin only goes up because everyone trusts it and they like what it stands for, and they don't know who it is. But if more information comes out about who the creators were, and if they were not the people we want them to be, then it could be worth nothing.
Affordable and reliable electricity is a key ingredient for a successful economy.
And that's why I prefer to own something like gold, because who created gold? Well, God created gold. So I don't think we've got an issue there. I love XRP. Why? Well, we know who created it. We know what their names. We know who created it. Yes, we know there's a company called Ripple who owns it, and they've showed us that it's part of a main part of their company. So I don't think they're going to dump it, because that'll be terrible PR. It'll be terrible for their company, and they've scheduled a way of slowly dumping XRP to as they want to make it more decentralized. So Bitcoin's argument is starting to fade, and it's making me worried. And when you start seeing connections with Epstein, I go, well, do I really want to own Bitcoin? Is the risk reward there? Best case, I 10x my Bitcoin, and then it's very, very, very much diminishing returns. Worst case, it goes to 0. What's the scenario of XRP? Best case, maybe if it gets adopted or whatever, we can start looking at $50, or maybe start looking at $100. But $10 is very possible, if and that's a 10x. And what's the worst case? Well, of course, cryptocurrencies can be volatile, can drop 90%, but it's not no one's going to come out and dump all their XRP. There is no mysterious figure. We know who the links are. We know exactly who's involved in making XRP. We know what companies use it. So this is very concerning about who actually created Bitcoin and the links, what he stood for. So what we're going to do now is move over to a little bit about XRP now, and specifically about the suppression. So what we're going to do is go over to part 2. I'll leave it up over
Woof, woof, The Papah Trail. Let's go. Yeah. The Papah Trail. Let's go. Yeah.
This is Matthew Cratter's Bitcoin University. Today I want to answer the question, did Jeffrey Epstein fund Adam Back of Blockstream? Here's the story. Jeffrey Epstein liked Adam Back and said so in this email where a guy named Vincenzo was asking Jeffrey, I think you said you met him, and as far as I know, you and Joy invested in his company, namely Adam Back's company, as we can see here from the subject line, Ray Adam Back. What do you think of him? And Jeffrey Epstein says about Adam Back, I like him. In fact, Jeffrey Epstein liked Adam Back so much that he invested in Adam's company, Blockstream, by funneling his money through an investment vehicle controlled by Joy Ito. As we can see here, Jeffrey Epstein writing on May 23rd, 2014, my investment in your deal will be made through Joy Ito Investment Co. When do you expect papers? And this is an exchange with Austin Hill, who is one of the co-founders of Blockstream, who's helping out with the fundraising. And Austin writes, hey, Joy and Jeffrey, we are down. It's funny he calls him Jeffrey. He's pretty close to him. We are down to the wire on closing this round. We are 10x oversubscribed on an $18 million seed round. And Reed at the last minute told us to bump your allocation from 50K to 500K. This is, of course, Reid Hoffman, who we'll be talking about before, who was a very frequent visitor at the island, part of the PayPal mafia, and also the founder of LinkedIn. And he was a very close friend of Jeffrey Epstein. So it says, Austin says, we're 10x oversubscribed. Reid told us to bump your allocation. This is causing no small amount of headaches, but so-and-so and I respect you both and have learned so much from you in our discussions. We have everyone else in the room to make a haircut. Where should we send the docs, etc. So they're making a special accommodation for Joy and Jeffrey here. And part of this fundraising involved the Blockstream team meeting with Jeffrey Epstein in his backyard. Right here, Epstein's writing, great, you'll need to fly to St. Thomas. Just let me know the times. Looking forward to it. And then if we scroll up here, we can see some coordination between personal assistants, Austin Hill, Adam Back. And at the top, we can see that they had booked their reservation. Right here, we can see Austin Hill and Adam Back will be visiting Jeffrey Epstein on St. Thomas. It looks to me like they're staying at the Ritz-Carlton on St. Thomas, which is right next to Little St. James, which is Epstein Island. So we can see St. Thomas here, and then we can see Epstein Island just in the backyard. Now, why in the world would anyone want to meet with a guy who had already been convicted in 2008 of procuring a child for prostitution like Epstein had been? This is something that a simple Google search of Epstein's name could have revealed at the time. So either Adam Back and Austin Hill didn't do any due diligence, or they were fine with taking money from a convicted pedophile. We can see here from the Wikipedia article, Epstein pleaded guilty and was convicted in 2008 by a Florida state court of procuring a child for prostitution and soliciting a prostitute. This was the guy they were meeting with in 2014. So Adam Back met with Epstein in person on St. Thomas. My question would be, did Adam also visit Epstein Island on the same trip? I couldn't find any evidence either way, but the two islands, as we said, are right next to each other. So Adam met with Epstein in person, a convicted pedophile, and then Epstein wrote Adam's company a big check and told people that he liked Adam. Now, of course, Epstein had a huge network and invested in hundreds of companies, so this might just be an unfortunate coincidence. But the really creepy thing, in my opinion, is that Adam Back still moves in these same deep state Epstein circles and has close ties with Howard Lutnick, who is about as deep state as it gets and was an associate of Epstein as well. Howard Lutnick, founder of Counter Fitzgerald, and now Trump's Commerce Secretary. Some people call him Lucky Lutnick because he was fortunate enough to decide as a top Lucky Larry, he avoided it. If you're finding this video interesting so far, I just paused really briefly here to ask you to help to support this channel. Hit the subscribe button. That does really, really help. Leave a like, leave a comment, question, suggestion for a future video, and share this video with a friend or family member. Now, people and Howard Lutnick have denied any involvement with Epstein. Let's hear what Lutnick has to say in this interview. I'm going to play a good chunk of it because it's quite interesting.
You're a New Yorker. You have known Donald Trump for 30 years. You know everybody. Elon Musk, Charlie Kirk, Jeffrey Epstein was your neighbor. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about him. East 71st Street. He was your neighbor for 10 years. How well did you know him?
All right. So we are in number 11 and he lives in number 9.
Right.
So we renovate, we buy our house, and our house is pigeons and mice.
Right.
Okay. That's it. It was derelict.
Right.
So we rebuild our house. We move in 2005. Okay. Jeffrey Epstein is arrested in like 08, I think, something like that.
Right.
So knock on the door. His assistant on like a Saturday says, Mr. Epstein, your neighbor would like to invite you over for coffee. So my wife and I go next door. We walk the 7 steps,
yes,
right, to the next house for coffee. We share a wall.
Right.
So it's New York City. So he invites us in. We have coffee in this, and he says, do you want a tour? We said, great.
Interesting.
He's got a really big house.
Every room you went into?
He's got, well, I'll tell you. So his house is like super big, really wide. And so he gives me a tour in the living room, big living room. And then across from it is double doors. I assume it's the dining room.
Yeah.
And he opens the doors and there's a massage table in the middle of the room.
Ooh.
And candles all around and stuff. So I ask very insightful, cutting questions. I say to him, massage table in the middle of your house? How often you have a massage? And he says, every day. And then he gets weirdly close to me.
Ooh.
And he says, and the right kind of massage.
Ooh.
Now my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, I'm sorry, we have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going.
Now, that's a nice story that Howard Lutnick tells here, but now that we have more of the Epstein files released, we can see that he's a complete liar. So that was, what did he say, in 2005 or so that he first met with Epstein. And here is an email from April 2011 to Jeffrey Epstein from Leslie Groff saying, Howard Lutnick will come to see you at 5 p.m. on Sunday, May 1st of 2011. And then Howard Lutnick was just so disgusted with Jeffrey Epstein that he decided to bring his whole family to his island in 2012. Below from Jeffrey comes Saturday or Sunday lunch, Little St. James on the map behind Chrisman's Cove. And here is the email from Howard Lutnick, who said he never again associated with Jeffrey Epstein. Hi, Jeff. That sounds like someone you're pretty close to when you're calling him Jeff instead of Jeffrey. Hi, Jeff. We're landing in St. Thomas early Saturday morning and planning to head over to St. Bart's on Monday. At some point, where are you located? What is exact location for my captain? Does Sunday evening for dinner sound good? Remember, again, this was the guy with the massage table in the middle of his dining room that Lutnick said was so disgusting. Does Sunday evening for dinner sound good? I have another couple, Michael and Marcy Lerman, with me on my boat. And then here's the really creepy part of the email. And each of us has 4 children, 2 16s, 2 14s, a 13, a 12, and 11, and a 7-year-old. Now, that might seem innocent with anyone else, but when you're talking about Jeffrey Epstein, it really does raise questions. Plus, the fact is just that Howard Lutnick is a complete liar. Now, why does this matter? This matters because Howard Lutnick has become very involved in Bitcoin via Adam Back. So here's Cantor Fitzgerald, which is Lutnick's company, that he basically distanced himself from when he became Commerce Secretary, but his son is running it. This is a family business. This is a nepotistic business. Cantor Fitzgerald SPAC to close $4 billion Bitcoin deal with Adam Back. And this is basically BSTR, Bitcoin Standard Treasury Company. And it was basically formed by a sort of reverse merger, special purpose, basically a SPAC called SIPO, Cantor Equity Partners. It looks like this thing has completely ground to a halt with the downturn in Bitcoin treasury companies. But basically, Adam partnered with Howard Lutnick for this. This is the disturbing thing, given how deep state Lutnick is. And Cantor Fitzgerald is also, and Howard Lutnick are also very closely tied to Jack Mallers and 21 Capital XXI, and they're both large shareholders, both Howard and Brandon. So this is getting in bed with the deep state actor. I'll put a link to this in the description notes below, talking about 21 Capital and talking about BSTR. One of the firm's special purpose acquisition companies, one of Cantor's, agreed to merge with BSTR, which is set to become a Bitcoin. The combined entity will be led by Adam Back, who helped establish Bitcoin, whatever that means. So this is the weird thing where you have Adam meeting with Epstein and then basically getting in bed with one of Epstein's associates. So let's hear what Simon Dixon has to say about this. I've played this before, but I think it's even more powerful knowing what we know now, thanks to this most recent drop of Epstein files.
Yeah, so the way that I analyze the proximity of individual players to the proof of weapons network. So when Adam Back, someone I've got deep respect for, cypherpunk, in the original white paper mentioned by Satoshi, but when he starts creating Bitcoin treasury companies, I know that he's
The Papah Trail. Let's go. Yeah.
Back, who helped establish Bitcoin, whatever that means. So this is the weird thing where you have Adam meeting with Epstein and then basically getting in bed with one of Epstein's associates. So let's hear what Simon Dixon has to say about this. I've played this before, but I think it's even more powerful knowing what we know now, thanks to this most recent drop of Epstein files.
Yeah, so the way that I analyze the proximity of individual players to the proof of weapons network. So when Adam Back, someone I've got deep respect for, cypherpunk, in the original white paper mentioned by Satoshi, but when he starts creating Bitcoin treasury companies, I know that he's going to be partnering with Howard Lutnick, the creator of Cantor Fitzgerald, Jeffrey Epstein's neighbor. that I believe was a part of Operation Choke Point 2.0, deeply connected to the deep state. And if they're, you know, if he's involved with these people, like Jack Mallers is at 21. I mean, Tether, you know, I'm a shareholder in over 100 different companies. I'm de-investing from all those companies. I did my part because I was an early investor in many of them.
We can leave it there, but you get the general idea of Lutnick's involvement in both of these companies. And then let's hear what Cruz has to say
I
about
have to
it.
tell you that the Bitcoiners that we listen to, be careful who packs your parachute. I think that's really my message. And I think when you understand some of the history, like, for example, I agree 100% with Simon about Adam Back. I don't think if I was a meeting organizer, I would ever invite Adam back to another meeting, if you want to know the truth, because I think it's obvious that he's cooked.
So there's both Dr. Cruz and Simon Dixon talking about Adam Back being compromised. This is something I covered about a month ago, and little did I know we would have such a wealth of information, new information coming from the drop of the Epstein files. Adam has not been happy with me for the past 8 months because I've been fighting against spam. I've been fighting against CSAM on Bitcoin. And here's a tweet from him in December of 2025. Creditors jumped the shark. It's pure tabloid conspiracy craziness from him lately. Had to block him. Well, he had to block me because he didn't have good responses to my arguments as well. My response to him, my dude, you literally took money from Jeffrey Epstein. So maybe you should just sit down and shut up for a while. You had no problem with visiting and taking money from an actual convicted child sex abuser. I really hope that's not why you decide to visit Epstein in person in his own backyard. But I guess that anything is possible at this point. Adam, you've constantly told us to stop warning people about the risks of CSAM hitting op return. Well, you took money from an actual CSAM guy, from the CSAM guy of the century. Adam, are you compromised? Is this the reason for the endless word salad tweets that defend bad actors in Bitcoin Core? Is this why you appear to have lost your ethical compass? Is this why you keep attacking all of us who are trying to close these attack surfaces on Bitcoin? I think Tomer is a great point here. The Epstein stuff shows just how vigilant Bitcoiners must remain because so many influential and powerful people were and are compromised. If you can't understand why someone is behaving erratically, consider the reasonable possibility that they're being blackmailed. And I think this is quite possible with Adam at this point. Now, Adam released a statement yesterday. He writes, in 2014, during Blockstream's seed round investor roadshow, the company was introduced to then MIT Media Lab director Joy Ito. Subsequently, Blockstream met with Jeffrey Epstein. Well, that's one way of saying it. You could say that you yourself, Adam, flew to St. Thomas Island and met with him and he liked you. Blockstream met with Jeffrey Epstein. In other words, Adam met with Jeffrey Epstein, who was described at the time as a limited partner in Ito's fund. That fund later invested a minority stake in Blockstream. A few months later, Ito's fund divested its Blockstream shares due to a potential conflict of interest and other concerns. Blockstream has no direct nor indirect financial connection with Jeffrey Epstein or his. And so after partnering with Epstein, Adam went on to partner with Howard Lutnick. As Bitcoin Maniac writes here, why were you meeting with a known sex criminal? That's a very, very good question. As Mozzie Apper writes here, why did you not announce this earlier? Given the high profile nature and potential impact on your business, would it not have been better to get ahead up front if you were fooled and are innocent? Adam, if you were just so disgusted by Epstein, why did you choose to go into business with Deep's client, Reid Hoffman, still on the board of Blockstream? And if so, why? We can see if you go and look online, it appears that Reid Hoffman's still on the board of Blockstream. I don't know if this is still true. If you want to know more about Reid Hoffman, his name appears, as Kaneko the Great writes here, Hoffman's name appears more than 2,600 times in the DOJ Epstein files, revealing hundreds of emails, Zoom calls, dinners, and meetings. Epstein described Hoffman as a very close friend. So these are the circles that Adam Back has moved in and continues to move in. And I think it should give us all pause. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the
Go.
Yeah, yeah.